The following is a presentation of the St. Louis Chess Club.
Hello everybody and welcome to our coverage of the 2022 Fall Chess Classic. I am happy to be here. My name is Jonathan Schrantz and I'm joined today by Evgenij Miroshnichenko. It's a pleasure to have you here with us today.
Well, my pleasure, Jonathan, to be here. Yeah, and not to make you pronounce my horrible second name all the time. I go by Miro.
Perfect.
That's
if it's
fine.
possible,
Yeah.
I think we'll be going with Miro from now on. And we actually have a lot of competitors in this that have very difficult names to pronounce. So let's just jump into it. Let's get right to the action and let's see who is playing in this event. This is actually a tournament that is broken up into two different sections. And in the A group, which has an average rating of about 2650, we have two 2700 rated players. We got Vidit Gujrathi and Yangyi. And right below him, we got Hans Niemann sitting there from the United States of America at 2699. You might even be able to recognize a couple other regular names. We got Illia Nyzhnyk, who you've maybe seen here live on Twitch streaming for the St. Louis Chess Club before. And this will actually conclude who we got going on in the A group. Now, let's see what's going on in the B group.
So the B group, well, I do see familiar names like, actually rated, somewhere at the bottom, but Cristian Chirila, who you guys might know as the commentator for St. Louis Chess Club as well. So he is actually about to prove that he can play chess. Okay, we really hope for that. But he's not one of the top. So in fact, on top position, we have Raunak Sadhwani from India, 26-28, and then followed by Denis Kadric, young American, I believe, young American talent, Christopher Yu, and it goes on and on.
Wonderful, and let's actually take a look now at our tournament format to get to know what time controls and everything that these guys are playing. This is going to be a 10-player round robin, so that's 9 days of chess in a row starting today. They are going to be playing with 90 minutes for the first 40 moves. They get 30 minutes at move 40, and they'll have that for the rest of the game. And all throughout, even from move 1, they get that 30-second increment. So I guess a pretty standard time control, you might say. Not the longest one of all, but definitely something interesting. Now, Miro, could you please let us know about the schedule?
Yeah, well, the schedule is, once again, I want to say pretty standard to what I'm used to play. Of course, like elite tournaments, they tend to have 3 days, but no 3 days for us. It's pretty straightforward. 1 p.m. start of the round, all the rounds from 1 to 8 on a last day, November 10th. We will start 2 hours earlier because in case we need playoffs, we will have playoffs and they will be played on the same last day.
That is wonderful. And just to let you guys know that this time we are actually trying to do something a little bit special for you guys over on social media. If you guys do want to talk to us, please use the hashtag Fall Chess Classic or watch all of the games live on uschesschamps.com. And this time we're actually trying to make everything a little bit more interactive. We got the Twitch chat, we got the YouTube chat, wherever you are in the world. If you're chatting right now, we are going to be able to see it. So hello a little bit to Elka, hello to everybody that's talking in the chat. Maybe you'll be able to get a special shout out. We'll be keeping our eye on that. And just so you know, all of the revenue that we do make from YouTube and also from Twitch in the form of bits and subscriptions, it all goes to fund children getting a chess education in their school. So just every $75 that we raise, we'll get a semester of programming for a child that will get approximately 10 different programs with a Grandmaster lesson in their class, and this will help them receive a chess education that they might not otherwise be able to have. So. With that all being in mind, could you please just tell us a little bit, Miro, about the pairings in Group A?
Well, let's find out all together. So round 1 in Group A, we have Illia Nyzhnyk facing Grigoriy Oparin, then Indian derby Ganguly against Vidit Gujrathi, Yangyi facing Van Nguyen. Aram Hakobyan and Nijat Abasov playing each other. I believe this game might conclude any time. And then the one game that we were thrilled about, but regrettably it's already over. It's a draw for Nikolas Theodorou and Hans Niemann. So Hans starts with a solid draw with black. Well, perhaps Nikolas can be happy that he plays on average better than Magnus Carlsen, who is notorious to lose with white against Hans
Well,
Niemann.
if it is possible, can we actually go through this game? I think this is the one that
yeah,
fans
yeah.
are probably most looking forward to
Yeah,
seeing. So if
absolutely.
we can start this one over and just
so
kind of
that's,
get an idea.
by the way, I just figured out, so that's move 40, and that's the first time you're allowed to offer a draw. So by the rules of this tournament, no draw offers before move 40 whenever they've reached it. Well, perhaps here it's fair to say it's not much left to play
very
for.
hard to play.
But yeah, but just quickly we'll click through the game. So it started with d5, g3, a check on b4. Well, nowadays, very, very common line against the Catalan. For whatever reason, black prefers to lose the tempo. Okay, I'll actually stop making fun of it, and we'll explain what's the point, right? So after castle, well, actually, I was always thinking that c6 is somewhat more precise moves order, but yeah, knight d7 works. Anyway, the point being that the bishop on d2 is sort of misplaced, in fact, and very often white just moves the bishop for a second time. That means black didn't lose a tempo. Or, yeah, queen c2, c6, bishop f4, here you go. So that's what? That's move 9, and you could have the same position on move 8 if black doesn't play a check, right, and white plays bishop c1 to f4 in one go. All that being, well, once again, a standard line. C takes d5, I guess. Here is what where you have a choice, because there are other moves, I'm sure. After cd5, rook c1, white is trying for this like really tiny minimal advantage, right? So no big things happens, no breaks in the center, nothing. Just white controls the c file, tries to be on the safe side, but also kind of to push a little. Pretty much the situation you want to be against Hans. I don't think you want to make him angry. So rook takes, queen takes, knight c3. I don't know what the plan was for white for this game, but it seems that he was always like more of a supporter of being on the stronger side rather than anything else. Or, but not the strongest, safer side, pardon. And yeah, so you see everything symmetrical. Pieces are kind of getting hoovered away from the board, slowly but surely. And then we trade the other guys. Yeah, like you can see the c5 square. That perhaps the only hope for white to achieve something substantial. If, let's say, he's able to trade the dark blue bishops, get the knight on c5, maybe there is hope. But yeah, but Hans was, in fact, very precise here. Knight is transferred to c6. And I guess if you move the bishop back, then black can actually think of grabbing a bit of space with b4, and this bishop is kind of passive just a little bit. So bishop goes to c5, but that allows black to jump to b4, trade these guys, later on trade the other guys. I believe black is fine if he captures, but there is no need to, such as bishop d7, a5. And there is one weakness for black, but one weakness, as we all know, is not enough. You need a second one, and f5, he just blocks.
All right, and so this is where this one kind of came to an end. And we've only just begun our commentary journey, but I want to ask you a little bit of a question before we hop in and see some of the other games, just because I think this is the one that I think everyone is probably talking about today, or at least had anticipated coming in. We're seeing a lot of people play the Catalan, and I guess as somebody that's only recently started watching every Hans Niemann game, it seems like he's defending this with the black pieces quite a bit. Do you think this is like a good option for people with the white pieces to try to play for a major advantage, at least at this top level?
Yeah, well, honestly, I'm not sure. It's perhaps for a lack of better options, to be honest, because if we are perfectly honest, well, it's not a lot of stuff you can do with white nowadays, because like it's either you play c4 and go in the waters of English opening, where, well, a few years back I would say you have a fresh position from move 5, but not anymore. Like even in English opening, it's like 20 moves of theory and everything's equal. And then after d4, you have like a lot of other headaches. Like the Grunfeld is the big thing, and then the Nimzo and so on and so on. So when you're finally getting the Catalan, you're probably, okay, at least I have a try, right? So it's not much white can do. The state of an opening theory on the high level, once again, is that it's not that you're looking for advantage with white, you're looking for the game, right? So to avoid your opponent making a draw without playing a single move over the board. So Catalan, in this regard, at least gives you some chances. So I guess that's the explanation, and especially in our case, when Nikolas, he is rated about 100 points lower than Hans. So once again, probably especially at the start of a tournament. You don't really want, to play a crazy game with white and lose in round one, and then how do you continue?
Yeah, it's a very respectable start, and this is actually not the only game that we have going on, and we also have an entirely other section, the B section of the Fall Chess Classic. And Miro, if you would, please go ahead and let us know what's going on there.
So here, Tigran Harutyunyan is playing with Cristian Chirila. Christopher Ryu has the white pieces against Brandon Jacobson. Alex Lenderman with Gergely Kantor from Hungary, I believe, right? Denis Kadric, Montenegro, board 1, faces Akshat Chandra, and then Raunak Sadhwani with Arman Mikaelyan. I think that's the top-rated game.
Yeah, that actually looks like a really interesting one. Is that one that we can jump to and to take a little bit of look and see what they've been doing?
Let me update this one just quickly. Here they are. Yeah. Okay, so that's quite an interesting development, because the rounds, as far as I understand, they started at the same time. And then Hans already, they've played it out in the end game with only bishops and kings on the board, like a lot of pawns, right? Here, pay attention on the board, ladies and gentlemen. Just a pair of bishops being swapped, and that's it. Like all 8 pawns each on the board.
And be here for a while.
It's move 22. And once again, I mean, we were discussing before the show, when you see the structure for white, and especially these doubled pawns and, c4, e4 setup, I personally would think that was something from English opening, the reversed Rossolimo variation. I have to specify it. Like Rossolimo is bishop b5 in the Sicilian, and then nowadays against English opening, it's very popular to go bishop b4 and then take on c3. And I was wrong entirely, because in fact it was e4, e5, knight f3, knight f6, bishop c4, and with slight transposition, so knight f6, d3, bishop c5, it is a Jacobiano. And Jacobiano is the opening I'll never comprehend, honestly. I mean, I did try it at some point, open the database, and was trying to follow, the big guys. So that's usually how it works. You're interested in some position, you open the database, you look at highest rated players, what they do. Turns out over here, they do absolutely everything. So there is no way at all understanding the move orders and so on. So basically what happens, like white opts to play d3, d4, but interestingly enough, whenever he gets the chance, like here, for example, of a castle, he's not in a hurry to do so, because then it's really hard to develop the bishop from b1. So he goes with h3 first to stop knight g4 perhaps, and ideally you want to play knight d2, f1, g3, and only then go for d4. Right, but black's not waiting, of course. a5, and a5 is sort of a modern take, because very often they would play a6, and then with the idea, of course, to hide the bishop on a7. After a6, white quite often would go b4, a4, see some space on the queen side, and then someone clever said, and why don't we play a5? Why don't we stop this b4 for good? Knight b to d2, bishop e6. And yeah, perhaps, okay, I mean, I was sarcastic most of the time, but here it is actually important. So in a7, a6 line, they usually tend to play rook e8 before going to e6. And why is that? So bishop e6, white actually didn't take on e6. So if white captures on e6, f e6, with the pawn on with the pawn here on a6, not on a5, it is considered that white goes b4, a4 has quite some space on the queen side. White is, for some reason, once again, I was told by the big guys, by, say, Peter Swibley, Russian champion, so he explained this to me. So white's considered to be better with the pawn on a6 and him having some space on the queen side. And then with the pawn on a5, this is not dangerous for black whatsoever. So black just goes bishop e6, he's not scared of anything. All right, and white plays b3. That's a Rubinstein maneuver, I believe.
This is the beginning of some
b8,
very
queen
elaborate
e7.
maneuvering.
Yeah, that's a very, very interesting sequence. Yeah, like rook to d8. Yeah, bishop b2 was also amazing.
Yeah.
But like you expect something along the lines of bishop e3, trade stuff, and so on. And anyway, it does something on this diagonal. But now, bishop b2, as far as I get it, I mean, d4 somewhere. Let's say stop black from, perhaps stop black from playing knight e7 because d4. Maybe that's the reason. Anyway, bishop b2, black eventually captures here. This is how we got to this structure, and then weird maneuvering continues. Knight g3 is not so weird, it's actually quite common. Knight to e7 to stop knight f5. Rook b5, bishop c5 back, bishop to c1 back, c6, rook to b1 back. So, well, just wasting your time a little bit. Bishop a7, knight h4, rook e8, queen e2, king h7. So here we are right now. I'm not sure if black enjoys having the queen on a6. So he was the one who spent some time to bring it there. But now that nobody is going to open the center. Okay, white's not going to open the center, but white brought all his, well, not all, but most of his stuff towards the king side. And then the last move, queen f3, kind of confirms on that. So knight f5 is going to be played later, sooner or later, and this king might be in danger. Yeah. So I believe, yeah, there is something to be worried with black.
Some very good chances here to stir up some sort of attack with the white pieces. So we're going to be keeping our eye on this. I have also just heard we have a little bit of breaking news. I believe one of these games is potentially over. If we could take a look at the game between Abasov and Hakobyan. Or maybe if we haven't finished, if the game hasn't finished yet, we might be getting near to our first decisive result here.
That's very, well, that actually is amazing because not only it's almost over, it's, well, it's 21 move and black seems to be winning. So something went terribly wrong for white. Well, we can check from the beginning. So once again, so nothing special. Knight c3, c5, so-called semi-Tarrasch, right? C takes d5, and then it's not even semi-Tarrasch because knight takes e4, knight c3 is what I'm talking about, yeah. And in this game, c takes d4. I guess nowadays it perhaps is more popular move. It's being played by.
Yeah, I do feel like I've seen this one at least at this top level played a little bit more these days.
Yeah. So well, the whole thing is about a check on a4, bishop d7, queen d4. The whole debate, is it playable for black or not? It was this, yeah. E takes d5, knight takes d5, and yeah, I think black just captures, goes knight c6, sacrifices the pawn like that. But
I love it.
Yeah.
But that's apparently not what happened.
Yeah, no. He just captures on d5 with the knight, knight d5, bishop d2. So quite a modest setup. Bishop e7, e3, castles, bishop e2. Black went with e5, and here, no. First, captures on d5, here, yeah, so that was, and here, the pause, you know. White went knight b5, kind of went all in, and it turned to be a terrible move. So what white had to do was either bishop f3, where you provoke e4, go back, and pretend that the knight on d4 is strong, apparently it is, or you just go back knight f3, which, if black wants it, might lead to the same position after e4 and knight back to d4.
I suppose the problem is that the g-pawn is actually hanging?
Yeah, but
you can take it.
I mean,
it looks scary.
He probably did not blunder the queen g2 thing, which happened. So white's reason to go there was that I play bishop f3 with the tempo, you move the queen away, and I'm winning the rook. Right, but it's very often so that if you spend that much time to take the piece which is not participating in the game, right, you kind of lack a lot on initiative and so on. And that's exactly what happened in this game. So knight to a6, knight takes a8. Perhaps it was still, no, it's too late. I wanted to say it was not too late to take on a6, but you're a pawn down with king stuck in the center, so you pretty much have to take. And then knight b4 happens. And then you can't really, as far as I understand, you can't really take, right? Because a check here, well, king f1 runs into bishop h3, king e2, there is e4, think, yeah, like you win the bishop. The king is under terrible attack. By the way, the threat is not even to take the bishop, but queen a6 checkmates into, no, that's a disaster.
Wonderful stuff.
That's a disaster. So knight b4, he apparently underestimated, white underestimated this line. Queen went to a4, a check on c2, king e2, and black says, I'm not interested in taking any rooks. Rook to d8, once again a threat of queen d3 check. Queen to c4, bishop e6. Why not queen e4, you might ask, but that's exactly what happens. So queen e4, bishop f5. Could have been the same from c8, so it doesn't really matter. Queen b7, a check. Finally takes the rook. And then what a move that is. King c1, bishop b1.
Ooh,
I love those moves. I love those moves. Yeah, bishop b1. So threatens the checkmate in 1. White absolutely has to play e4, and then bishop captures on a2. Bishop d1, bishop to g5. I mean, black attacks from every possible angle. f4, queen d6, and while I was showing the previous moves, the game, in fact, has ended.
Wow, and with that, we see Nijat Abasov actually taking an early lead in this competition. So that's really cool to see. And it is also worth taking a little bit of time to see what these guys are actually playing for and taking a look at the prize fund for each one of these fields. So we'll be starting off with the A section and taking a look at the prize funds. They are competing for $22,000 US, and the top prize is a $6,000 purse that somebody could be walking away with. Then second place is $4,000, third place is $3,000. It goes all the way down, and everybody will be walking out of here with at least $1,000 for 9 days of work. And now let's go ahead and take a look at the B group and see what is going on there.
Oh yeah, the B group, I believe, well, it's slightly smaller share of a prize fund, but still $4,000 for the first place, 2.5, 2,000, and so on and so forth. And I believe, okay, I'm not sure if it's official, but the winner of the B group allegedly gets into A group the next year, right? I mean, okay, at least
a lot to play for. That's almost better than the prize fund for a lot of these people. And we also have a little bit more breaking news. It turns out that Abasov, who we just saw that very decisive, beautiful victory, has blessed us with an interview. So we are going to go ahead. This is a little bit of a new feature here. This is our first interview, and let's see what he had to say about his game.
So the line is quite calm, but then I went d5, and that moment I felt like I already managed to equalize, and later on he went for move 11, knight b5, what was kind of the turning point of the game. It was quite a principal line, because if not this move, then I'm completely okay. But this move is also itself is a risky, like he's sacrificing the pawn on g2, and well, in fact, wins my rook on a8, but his king is also getting stuck in the center, so it's very double-edged. But it felt very risky for me, like what he does, and I went for this sacrifice, queen takes g2, and there was already no turning back, neither for him nor for me, but luckily for me, everything just works well.
Oh, that's lovely to hear.
Yeah.
Great time starting off with the black piece with a nice victory, and we hope to see you in later rounds, hear you back, and good luck in the next rounds.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that interview, and I just want to let you know that we are keeping our eyes on the chat. Shout out to Jay Beast and everybody else that's watching. Some people were asking, you know, are we using a VHS style tape? Well, no, actually, that was our very own Jacob Sanders, who was doing his first ever recording, editing. He did everything to make that interview possible. So big shout out to Jacob for being able to let us interview some of these players, and that's going to become a recurring thing throughout these episodes. So with that in mind, maybe it would make a little bit of sense here. There's so many games going on. We only have so much time. Is it possible to just kind of go around the horn and let's kind of take a look at some games?
Yeah, let's start with the A group, of course, and we do have three results already. So that's the one from Abasov, and we already know, it finished with the beautiful bishop b1 and a win for black. We are aware of a draw for Hans Niemann, and there was one more draw for Illia Nyzhnyk and Grigoriy Oparin.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of probably Nyzhnyk fans out there. He does quite a lot of streams on our Twitch channel, so there might be some interest in seeing what he did today.
Look, like confirming on my words that bishop b4 nowadays against the English Opening is very popular, right?
Right there.
Oparin went for it on move 2, and then Nyzhnyk actually decided to keep the integrity of his pawn structure, went with queen c2. Which is, sound positionally, but didn't prove white to have any advantage. So I do really not know if we have to go through the entire game. Yeah, perhaps let's stop by somewhere over here on move 16. Yeah, so, or a couple of moves earlier. So they traded a couple of pieces, and usually white's idea in the English Opening in these formations with pawn on c4 against pawn on c5 is, of course, to go for b4, but now you kind of don't have the tools, right, unless you're planning for knight e1, knight c2, which is a little bit awkward. So white instead goes for knight g5 and f4, so tries to open files over there. h6, knight to e4, then captures on e4, goes e5, bishop takes, pawn takes, and apparently this one, is roughly equal. I don't know, white tries to win. I mean, he does win the pawn, he captures.
Good way to
tries
to win, take a pawn.
Yeah, queen e6, back to d2, rook b3. But thanks to this rook on b3, I believe, and black being able to double on the b
Should be able to get a lot of
probably,
compensation there.
probably gets enough compensation. Anyway, the game finished relatively soon. So we're here, queen e5, and now perhaps you can't really protect this pawn, so d4 was played. Rook g3.
Ooh,
okay, so
he
that's
found
the
it.
point. Yeah,
He found a
you
way to
take
draw.
with the queen. Take with the queen. It's just a draw, I believe. Black can trade. Black can also consider taking on e2, right? And if you take with the rook, yeah, you similarly keep all your stuff protected, but there is rook g3 and then just a perpetual check.
And I can see from the chat that people are also kind of interested in seeing what's going on in Cristian Chirila's game. If we could take a look at that, he is in the B section.
Absolutely. What's interesting, the B section, I don't know if there is any. Well, there is one draw for Christopher Yu, but that's about it. That's about it. So that, in a way, the guys are like much eager to fight.
That's very good.
Okay, and also they playing much slower, interestingly. So for Cristian, it's only move 25. He has the black pieces here, and once again, it was a peculiar opening. Like basically, white just plays e3 and says, yeah, okay, not interested in opening discussions. I play my thing, you play your thing. Let's see who does it better. And in a few, there've been some transpositions, but anyway, the current position on the board, or maybe we'll just click through. It looks like a hedgehog setup. Once again, with colors reversed, with white pretending that he plays the black pieces. And black also having kind of a funny setup with the queen on b7 rather than bishop on b7. Okay, rook a to d8, queen a2, queen a1. Yeah, so, well, black setup, or rather white setup now, yeah, looks pretty standard. And moves the queen, moves the bishop over here, which is once again, to some who are not familiar with this line, might seem to be like huge surprise, but in fact, that's once again, I have to repeat, with colors reversed, right? This battery is known, and then whenever you play d4, h7 will be targeted. So that actually makes a lot of sense. Black goes g6. Over here, well, sometimes d4 is still a thing because you can sacrifice on g6, but apparently not here. So queen to a1. Bishop to f7, knight to e4. Yeah, but now you're making a point that, yeah, g6 played, so f6 now is not as protected as it used to be. So your entire structure is somewhat loose, and then that is especially seen if black all of a sudden gets aggressive, plays f5, that he might as well regret it, because knight g5, e5 is hard to guard, then white's going to capture the bishop, and it seems that the bishop on c2 is kind of a passive piece, but never mind, even, like say, if black doesn't have the bishop on f7, even bishop b1, bishop a2, and then opting for b4. So that's some fine positional chess we are witnessing. Okay, so...
It is kind of interesting, because I'm thinking, you know, I'm not a huge fan of suffering on the more passive side of a Maroczy bind, but it really looks like in this one, white is actually kind of showing an excellent illustration of just how powerful it can be.
Yeah, but that's, you know, it's not exactly Maroczy. Well, that's more of a hedgehog. And hedgehog, perhaps he is a unique animal on a chessboard that, well, usually with the lack of space, you're happy to trade the pieces because you don't have the room to accommodate all the guys. But hedgehog, if you think of it, like white is perfectly fine. So it's some sort of a loaded spring, and whenever you allow, it's d4 or b4, and then all of a sudden all the pieces come to life. Okay, so knight g3 for now. Why knight g3? Because white, of course, seeking to play d3, d4 at some point, and when you have a piece on e4, then d4 is met with f5, and then black blocks. So ideally, you want to control the e4 square, but not have the piece on e4 square. I say, to illustrate it, I say black goes a5 for whatever reason, and d4, there is no e4, right? White's going to capture simply. Okay, so that's what we have for now. That's for Cristian. We do have first result in the B group as well.
Oh,
I mean, for first decider. Denis Kadric opens the score against Chandra Akshat.
Yeah, if we could just take a very quick run through of this, because I think we also will be blessed with another interview. That we'll be able to listen for this one. So
for Denis Kadric.
Yes.
Well,
so
maybe let's listen to the interview, and then if he mentions the moves, I can try to follow them.
Let's
Yep.
hear it now.
Okay, and little magic
Immediately
happens.
now.
Okay.
All right, so thanks for coming in, Denis. I have some quick questions for you, just to get you going off your victory. And can you just take us through some interesting moments in your game and just talk to the people and tell them what you thought?
Yeah, sure. I played the Italian. I mean, I've always played the Italian, but I played some, let's say, weird move order with, like, that was considered to be, in the past, I would say, just not so good for white at all, where I played bishop g5 immediately on move 4. It wasn't considered to be that good because when black didn't castle, he has ideas like h6, g5, and I cannot sacrifice on g5, so the bishop on g3 looks very weird. But of course, engines showed some ideas there that the bishop on g3 is not that bad actually. So he played like there bishop g5, h6, bishop h4, and now he played the most solid line. He goes bishop e7 back. And now he wants to just consolidate, play normal position, telling me that my bishop on the king side will be not very well placed, I would say. So there, okay, I mean, the guy who plays this all the time as white is Demchenko Anton. He is, I would say, the biggest expert in these lines. So I was really looking very often at his games regarding this. So after bishop e7, you play bishop g3 immediately, forcing some d6, and now black threatens to get my bishop with knight a5. So there you push a4. And now, okay, so now this position is, I mean, of course, engines gives just zeros all the time, but I think it's very interesting. Like, there are a lot of plans there. So after a4, he played castle, c3, and now let's see. And now here, he played, in my opinion, one of the best plans there black has. He played this like g6, knight h5 idea to get my bishop. So g6, h3. He played now king g7 first. I played knight d2. He goes knight, and now he didn't go knight to h5. Which is the best. I'm pretty sure it's the best according to engine. But he has to find an idea which I found, to be honest, very hard to see like in a real game. If you're not prepared with the engine, is to go knight h5, and then after bishop h2 you go bishop g5 with the idea to go bishop f4. And that whole idea with bishop g5, I mean, you always have to calculate, can I go g4, can I go h4, stuff like that. So like I didn't really expect that, because I saw that he doesn't like that, he's not like really well prepared in that line, so I didn't expect that he's gonna play there. So he plays now knight to h7 there. Okay, so now we are both basically out of, like, there's no more, like... Sorry?
Oh, no, you're good.
So I don't really, like, after knight h7, so now we are both out of book, and, okay, but his idea is to attack me very fast with f5, f4, just to get my bishop closed, so I open up the center. That's a very interesting idea in that line, where I just push d4, trying to sacrifice the pawn, actually, but if he takes it, I get a lot of compensation. So yeah, now after d4, he didn't take the pawn, but now I think he's just worse. Knight g5, he tookag5, and now I played the move knight to b3. I think I actually missed, wait, when did I castle? I forgot to say castle, so when did I castle? That's the whole thing. d4, knight g5, no wait, somehow I missed. I think after he played king g7, I probably, no wait. Yeah, somehow I have a castle there, and so now in this position after knight b3, his pawn structure is, I mean, he has some ideas. In a blitz game, I think it could look very dangerous for black to attack me on the king side, but here I played knight b3, keeping the center, just like trying to keep it open. And to be honest, here I loved my position, because it's very hard for him to go anywhere nice with his knight from c6. He tried to go like later on queen e7, knight d8, but after d5, the knight again cannot really move anywhere. So I really got, like, I would say one of, like, let's say a King's Indian structure, where I'm super fast on the queen side. And then, I don't know, to be honest, like, I felt like I'm completely winning. And then at one moment I was like, okay, it's not so clear. He has some ideas. So it's a moment like I just moved my bishop back, queen c2, c4, c5, and I think that there it's just, I think it's over. Like maybe the engine could find some tactics there, but positionally talking, he is completely done. I also liked at the end when he pushed g4, how I play the a6 move. That's, I think, a very, very nice move where I just like kill his counterplay completely. Probably even just taking the pawn should be winning, but this seemed like the safer option.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on, and I wish you great luck in your next rounds, and hope to see you back.
Thank you very much.
Wonderful. That again was Denis Kadric on his big win over Akshat Chandra. An excellent way to start the tournament. And once again, thank you very much to Jacob Sanders for providing us that interview with the players. Now, Miro, is there any games that I guess we haven't taken a look at yet? Maybe there's still a few more interesting things to look at.
Yeah, right. Well, we don't have that much time, so just like let's quickly jump from one actual position to the other without rewinding to what has happened in the opening. So Chirila's game we've already seen, right? So it's h4, h5 white went for. Well, trying to loosen the king side even further, right? Yeah. That actually, I can predict what's going to happen in this game. Not in terms of result, but I mean, usually you spend enormous amount of time with both colors. Like white, I mean, okay, let's talk it without keeping my colors reversed because that confuses me. So you always look to make like d4 or b4 work, and then with the opponent always have to watch out for it. So pretty much any move. Like I played h4 and they think, okay, next move he's gonna go d4, b4. Or next move. So that makes it that by move 25, okay, they've actually passed it, 29, but Chirila is on seconds. And white still has 20 minutes, but this 20 minutes are easily spent in such a complex position. So mind you, only one pair of pawns exchanged. So everything's on the board. And then usually by move 40, it's absolutely clarified because someone loses his nerve. Usually the white like pushing d4, but it's not necessarily bad. It's just like, I mean, it creates the open fight, and then
you don't have any time, so you do it.
Absolutely. Okay, so here is that. Then we have Raunak and Mikaelyan, and here...
This is our Gioco piano with some very nice maneuvering and potential attacks for white.
So white is trying to get there. So, well, white actually played d4, which is quite interesting, because this potentially allows this queen to kind of join, right? Queen takes
giving up a b
c4
pawn, but...
Yeah, well, rook d7, that's what he did. So he guards b4, he guards, b7, he guards f7 potentially, who knows? I mean, after some sacrifices on g7, it might come in handy, right? So this d4 is quite a bold move, and I suspect since he went for it, he has in mind something along the lines of c5, just breaking it open everything. So if black captures, then of course I take on e5, and so kind of trying to make things happen on the king side, while these dudes, the bishop on a7, the queen on a6, are still stuck. I don't know if it works, but that would be a very logical continuation for white. Let's see how this unfolds.
Definitely one to keep our eye on. This is a really nice one.
Yeah, and then we have Lenderman against Kantor, where it is actually an endgame. Lenderman being a pawn up, right, if I can count still. Well, maybe not for long, because king d6 happens, and then after king e4 there is a check on f6. And the good question would be, who is better and why? Because, yeah, that's a very confusing position, that one.
Yeah, if it wasn't for all that analysis, I mean, chess would be so easy.
Yeah.
Except for that who's better and why part.
All right, but yeah, I mean, what I see the bishop, which usually is stronger than knight if we are talking about play on both wings, right? And somehow black's pawns on g7 and h6 supposed to be vulnerable, but they're not. And then king g4, he also has a check on f6, like not letting this king to go to g6, right? So yeah, perhaps black has control over the game. Let's move what? It's moved 36. Once again, black is down to 1 minute. Lenderman is, well, on half an hour or something. So we'll see. And how about the A group? A group already had 3 results, right?
All right. Is there anything that we've missed so far?
Maybe we've gotten more. No, well, there is one more. So Yangyi.
Oh yeah,
a draw against
one of our top seeds.
Van Nguyen, right? Okay, I don't know whatever happened in this game, but they've reached well, the rook endgame 3 pawns each, and that usually is considered to be a draw. So that's the only one which is going. Ganguly against Vidit.
Our other 2700 competitor.
Yeah, so let's try to understand what's there. I was actually a very funny opening line where at some point it would seem that White was getting somewhere and he has won a pawn, but since then, I mean, he's still kind of up a pawn, but who cares, right?
Is White in a little bit of trouble?
This one is well, it's a huge pawn, right? So d3. If Black to move, I think we are safe to say he wins with Bishop b4.
Yeah, looks like the knight will come under attack. If the knight had to move, obviously the pawn would be able to promote.
All right, so that's Bishop e4. And okay, is Vidit winning or not? That's a good question because so now that the good thing, the pawn is pinned and attacked at the same time. So now Bishop b4, knight f. I'm not even sure f1 or f3. I'd say f1 for now. I guess Bishop b1 is what you do. You can't really go d2 because the bishop's taken and the pawn stopped, right? And if you go Bishop b1, White might as well just play a4. It turns out because d2 once again. I mean, it threatens the bishop's hanging, but you can take. You can take, and
the knight protects the bishop.
Knight protects the bishop, and actually has a chance to win in these opposite colors because he's up 2 pawns. I mean, I won't be surprised if Black still holds a draw, but obviously that will be
going for.
Yeah, that'll be a huge mistake to do so. However, if we think of like probably Bishop b4 is not a bad move, or an alternative could be Bishop c1. So if White goes to f1, e3 is also controlled. And then you want to make use of your king. So try to get, well, ideally somewhere around d4. I don't know if it happens. So yeah, there is still, the heat is still on there. The heat is still on. So far, Abasov is the only who won the game, and well, quite conveniently with the black pieces. I mean, that's the best start of the tournament.
And it's actually quite frequent. I mean, you're going to get that. There's going to be a lot of rounds where there's 4 or 5 draws all together. So it's very nice whenever you get any decisive action at all.
Yeah, I want to say I've almost been in his shows while playing Fall Classics in 2018. So
yeah.
I made it to a tournament, and I got black pieces in the first round. But this is where the similarities stop. Because because I lost.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you want, how much you want to go into detail of what happened in that tournament.
Yeah, well,
you did play in
if you are interested in my description of that, my participation in Fall Classic, I tend to say that on a distance of 8 rounds, I made 1 more point than Alexander Motylev, who is known as, well, European champion, was 2700 at some occasions. And the truth, this kind of silly truth is that I've lost against him in round 1 and we shared the last place. So I was playing terribly, but he even worse.
Yeah,
yeah.
Sorry to bring up such painful memories.
But starting from round 1, I was doing better than Motylev at least. I mean, so that's kind of comforting. Anyway, so that's the only game which is in progress. There is something in the B tournament. So still 3 games going. Yeah, well, perhaps Chirila's game is the most entertaining anyway. So they're pushing pawns left and right after Queen B1, A5, kind of controlling B4 just in case. White goes Bishop E2. Yeah, this bishop, in fact, I mean, it had some. No, it never been to B1. It was my idea to put it on B1. Yeah. So anyway, the bishop is now back to E2, and Black eventually goes G5. So now, since Black weakened the F5 square, let's move the bishop back to C2.
Yeah, honestly, yeah.
Who knows? Who knows? Yeah. So Chirila is under pressure, I have to say, and. Overall, I must say that's a tough tournament. Nine rounds. Well,
yeah.
with
this
oppositions, especially like the A. Now, probably each group, but the A group nowadays it grows year by year.
Oh yeah.
Because when we were playing 2018, I think the average was, well, some around 2600, 2610 perhaps. But not higher than that. And that was considered to be like one of the strongest, or
Correct,
one of the
right.
stronger ones, right? And now they've added like 50 points of an average ELO, so that means like everyone grew up by 50 points.
And I know the goal is always, this is kind of a tournament that's meant for players that are, you know, not going to get invites to the Sinkfield Cup or something, but they've kind of got beyond these like IMGM norm tournaments. It's kind of this weird section that you find yourself in. And we generally try to balance it out and have a B section that's around about 2550 rated, in an A section that's about 2650 rated. But as you've kind of mentioned yourself, it is something where, you know, in the past, maybe sometimes it's skewed a little bit lower, and definitely over the last several years, this is a tournament that has only grown in strength, and it keeps getting harder and harder to win one of these classics.
Oh yeah, well, that's precisely what you've pointed out. You have a lot of Swiss events around the world, but not that many round robins, right? It kind of tends to be sort of a thing of the past. And then it's very nice that St. Louis Chess Club has it, and then at least for some people, they can play round robin with a stronger position, very good conditions there. I have to admit it, despite my like terrible play a few years ago. But yeah, that's a very good tournament-friendly atmosphere and everything. Yeah. All right, sir. Will we see like literally one decisive game each section, or not really? No, well, there are still 3 going on here, so hopefully someone's gonna win. So once again, we'll quickly click through. Okay, Lenderman. He's got his bishop on F8. All right. So we are getting somewhere.
So Black did win the D-pawn.
Black did win the D-pawn. Oh, okay, so if it's white to move, white actually has quite an annoying move F6, right? And it can be, well, this pawn can be taken in 2 different ways, but then taking with the knight is probably just bad. Okay, bishop G7, and not to lose the H-pawn, you have to go back, and that's... that doesn't look good, I want to say. So even like F3, and there possibly will be some... Oh no, wait. The pawn's gonna run away. So maybe I have to be a little bit more aggressive. Maybe F4. And the material is very limited, but the king is active, right? The knight is really silly on G8. So.
It's very nice how the black king can't just enter so easily in this position either.
Yeah. Well,
if the king could run over and try to take that A pawn.
Yeah, but we kind of have everything under control, right? And it's rather white king, which is like seeking the way to perhaps even trap the knight rather than take the pawn. Okay, so F6, but the real debate is, of course, that black captures here, bishop H6, and white does get the, well, kind of dangerous H-pawn, but black also might have some resources. So knight F5, a nasty fork. A nasty fork is threatening. You probably get king F3, and then a lot of jumping here, and then at some point, as you've mentioned, Jonathan, the king runs to, well, the queenside pawns, and maybe you trade the knight for the passed pawn. So it's quite sharp.
Yeah, in this line, it's much easier for the black king to kind of get into the position. So.
Yeah, so being on Lenderman's place in this position, I think I might try to delay F6. Oh, wait a sec, but if you delay F6, his next move is H5, and F6 is no longer a thing at all, right? Because F6, it's always going to be captured with the pawn. So it's now or never then. Yeah, it's now or never. Alrighty, but it's move 38, move 40 for white to make, and that move 40 is notorious for like people making mistakes on move 40.
Yep, and you can see the clock times there. These are usually off by just a little bit, so it might not be exactly 43 seconds, but you can see that Gergely is actually under quite a lot more time pressure than his opponent, but with only 3 moves to make, maybe we'll be able to get out of this one alive.
Yeah, and then what else? And was it? Yeah, sometimes, you know, I'll just predict something, leave this variation on the board, and it stays there. But this one is updated.
Yeah, this one I'm actually very curious about. This one is getting very interesting.
Look, I mean,
strangely enough,
I've kind of called it up to all the way to bishop F4, and then rook E to D1.
Okay.
And that's,
so white has sacrificed a pawn. Black has a couple pieces really offside here on the queen side, so this is a really cool concept.
Yeah.
And it might even work.
Yeah, it does seem to work. I mean, especially like if he trades, it's you know, that's pawn sacrifice for initiative in 3D scope with Dolby Surround, right? I mean, white kind of literally has all the forces attacking the king, and then I wouldn't be surprised like next move knight G7 just works. I don't want to calculate too much, but I believe it just works because you have like all the pieces literally
Yeah, all this for just one pawn.
Yeah. So then that seems to be very promising for white, and then once again Chirila, all the pieces on the board, and yeah. So they do make more moves. Bishop b2, g5. Yes, bishop d1 was played. I mean, it's amazing that it's sort of a pendulum, this bishop. Yeah, there's d1, c2, and then back to d1, e2, and so on.
This is why you've played in these before, so you're able to see it all coming.
h6, knight to h2, so that he intends bishop g4 now.
Very nice.
And yeah, knight e7. I suspect.
Also trying to control.
I suspect f5, e4 is what bothered him. And then yeah, like if you take white takes and still gets control over those light squares. Yeah, white allows knight d4, but he will trade the dark square bishop, and that's sort of a cheating, you know, Jonathan. Like when you fight for light squares with the dark square bishop by trading it for one of the knights. Yeah, and then the black dark square bishop is really silly. So that's why he apparently didn't play f5. He went knight to e7. Then white goes e4 anyway, restricting the knight, intending to play bishop g4. Rook c2 d8, rook e3, so once again guarding the pawn, and he is planning bishop g4 and knight f5 or knight g4. Yeah, so that's a very, very tricky position, because I don't think black is like in real trouble. Black also has moves, bishop e6, yeah, exactly what's played, so he controls the light squares. But it's very intense, and also Chirila is down to his last minute.
Remind me what move they're actually on here?
That's move 34. That's move 34.
So 6 more moves from here.
Yeah, and Cristian is on last minute, and already for quite a while, because when we are checking, I think somewhere around here, when he played a5, he already was on like 37 seconds.
Yeah, g5 was a big decision.
Yep.
But we'll see what happens with this one. Also, we're always taking a look
funny draw, they say.
at the chat.
Yep. Oh, well, someone actually figured out my emote in the chat. Well, I do have an emote, yeah, cool.
So if you are here joining us, if you're on Twitch, if you're on YouTube, we are hanging out with you. Feel free at any point to send some questions. You might be able to influence a little bit of the show. And I'm hearing from Pumpkin the Cat, huge shout out to Pumpkin the Cat, that Vidit is potentially in time trouble too. So it might be worth taking a look at that one once again. He will be in the A section.
Yeah, so A section, the only game going is Vidit.
Oh yeah, we were trying to figure out what was happening with this.
Wait a sec, yeah.
Very strong pass
I have to update this one. Yeah, well, he's down to his last minute. So what happened after bishop b4 was in fact a5. Okay. Also makes sense, yeah. Well, get it closer. Maybe you're gonna win the a2 pawn at some point. Right, king f1, bishop b4, knight f3. And I'm just wondering if, you know, this king of 1 was a terrible blunder, because there is bishop d1, which wasn't available previously. And now you kind of cannot really take the pawn. And white is threatened by bishop e2, push the king away, then go d2 and win the piece finally. So I wonder if there is a move for white, unless it's knight d4. Because, yeah, allow bishop e2 and you're just toast. Or king g2... then d2 happens, yeah, and then he's just ready to go anywhere. Right, so he doesn't even need a check.
Very, very good for black.
Yeah, he doesn't even need a check. So, well, perhaps he's just winning.
Yeah, unless we're missing
I don't see. Oh, well, is this a move? I know, but this, once again, allows d2 and all sorts of threats up to, like, bishop takes g4. No.
I mean, it's... yeah, something to think about, though.
I guess he just blundered bishop d1, Ganguly.
Huh.
Also having like 12 minutes on the clock, so it was...
Yeah, that is weird. This is obviously, I mean, Vidit is obviously one of the stronger players in the tournament, but yeah, it's just going to come down to what is going to happen with this d-pawn, and can white find some sort of solution here?
Okay.
And just to answer some of the questions, a lot of people I think are wondering, do we have cameras for this event? And unfortunately, we actually won't. Kind of the issue with having a live show is either we can have the live chat and be able to talk to all of you wonderful people, who I must thank for being such a wholesome chat today. It's really been fun talking with you guys. But we will not actually have any cameras. We will be having some interviews, and we've seen that already with some of the games that have had decisive results. We've been able to speak with a few of the winners.
Oh yeah, and shall we say where they're playing? They're playing at the beautiful Chase Hotel, right?
All right. Well, I'm hearing from the producer that we can actually leak where they're playing. I feel a little bit weird, saying where like players are playing. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. You guys have been good. I mean, I'll give you that. But there's some weirdos out there. But they are playing at the Chase Park Plaza, which is one of the nicest hotels here in the St. Louis area. It's a fantastic place to play any tournament, and it's just really a historic building, very tall building, easy to see from anywhere in the city.
Okay, so the chat has the question how so perhaps Ganguly was lost before that. I wasn't so sure because I was thinking of knight f1, knight d3 as
you
the way
it in my mind. This
as
is
the
what was
way
gonna be
to at
happening.
least kind of have control over d1. But you might be right, chat. Maybe black's still winning, and maybe the pawn that will actually promote is not the d pawn but the a pawn. I mean, since he went a5, maybe he goes a4. After knight e3, he goes bishop b1, moves this guy away. Then in the right moment takes, gives d3, but promotes a pawn. Yes, I won't be surprised. Yeah, I won't be surprised. It was already problematic for Ganguly. So we will have, if this ends up as it looks for now, we will have a very, very strange situation where, like, both games that are won in first round are won with the black pieces. And then they keep telling us that white's supposed to have an advantage in the opening, which is, well, perhaps not the case.
It's also nice to have a rating advantage over your opponents. That also seems to go quite a far way
Yeah,
in winning
yeah.
games, even with the black pieces.
Yeah, that's how it works. Alrighty, and then for Cristian's game, and in the B group, no one seems to be finishing the game anytime soon, I have to say. The B group, so will Cristian make it out of time trouble? That's the big question, right? So move 37 is what we have. Move 37, still, well, not so much time for Cristian, but with 3 moves to go, and he actually is quite solid, right?
These issues, though.
Yeah, right. So the point is, at some, white perhaps kind of slowed down a little bit with bishop c3, not saying that he had anything better than that, and black went for f5, which trades a few pieces, and black all of a sudden is full control. He attacks the d3. He's ready to jump to d4, and might as well look for the way to play e5, e4, which, by the way, black just stopped. White just stopped with bishop f3.
Yeah, so looks like white had that on the radar, but this does look like a huge kind of turnaround. I mean, we were kind of looking at that f5 square, like maybe white's going to get some sort of huge advantage here, but all of a sudden,
no f5 square for you, no. Well, kind of the last move is clever because now if you capture on d3, white can take, right, and then eventually take on c6. So, I don't know, trading queens or just letting black trade, but eventually the knight's taken on c6.
Very nice.
But other than that, you can play knight d4, for instance, or just some move, and I don't think black is in that much trouble.
And here's just a little bit of a fun fact about Cristian Chirila. He's actually the only competitor in this tournament that actually his official FIDE rating is actually inactive. He's one that has not been playing in a lot of tournaments. He's been doing a lot of commentary, not a lot of playing.
Yeah, so. Because the feeling is like he's always around.
Yeah,
like
we see him every
chess
day,
event. Yeah, there's Cristian around, but it turns out, he went inactive. And what does it take nowadays to go inactive? You don't play for a year, 2 years?
It's an entire year of not playing, and then you end up going inactive. So it's actually, I mean, it's hard to get back into something like this. Like I imagine, like you take a year off. I know even if you're playing at a low level, like I've seen people just like take a year off and they're like, oh, I'll never get back into it. But it's good to see Cristian here, and by the looks of it, things are going fine so far in round 1.
Alrighty, so knight to d4, bishop to e4. Yeah, once again, the game's going. White's fighting for the light squares. Black bishop on g7 is still passive, but yeah, not as scary for black as it looked a few moves ago. So let me once again check. Oh, whoa, what's going on here? Yeah, so black actually does go for more stuff. So rook traded on d1, queen c4, yeah, trying to bring the queen in. Knight to d6. Now, interestingly, the pawn is not taken. Instead, he goes queen a4, targets the rook. So perhaps it goes like this, right? So you can't really, in some distant remote variations, you probably cannot move the queen because the rook's hanging. So perhaps that's why queen a4, white captures on f7, black captures on e4, rook to e1, knight g to f6. So it's now or never. I believe he has something, yeah, well, some sacrifice here or there. Well, does bishop h6 just win would be one of my questions, because queen f5 is such a... wait a sec. Maybe we'll do it in a clever way. How about going here, so attacking the bishop. I don't know if it's a good move, it's just a guess, but yeah, we attack the bishop on a7, and if bishop captures, we have a check followed by queen takes rook, and this has to be winning.
Oh, there's a lot of cool stuff then.
Yes, there is that. Now, let me see. Knight g to f6, white is thinking. Once down to seconds, it's still, oh wow, it's only moved 33, so that's an exciting time trouble. So white is probably winning. White is probably winning, but yeah, I mean, he's down on time, and well, now we officially kind of getting confirmed that the time display we see on this board.
He has not run out of time completely.
Yeah. So he did take on h6, and my first guess was, I don't know if it was correct, but that's something that happened in the game at least.
Yeah, so
right,
queen
so bishop
f5
takes,
now lingering in the position.
Bishop takes h6. Wow, yeah, queen check is a threat.
And I think we actually have a little bit of breaking news. We were taking a look at that Vidit game from earlier. I believe he has actually officially won.
Yeah, he has
his game.
officially won. Yeah, absolutely. So bishop g2, d3, bishop e4, a5, king f1. Yeah, perhaps this bishop d1 was the
And that was actually the final move of the game.
Absolutely.
And, good news, we actually have an interview with Vidit, so he's going to be able to give us a little bit more insight into his game.
All right. Thank you so much for coming on the show. If you could just take me quickly through some of the key moments, the cool parts of your game, and tell me what's going on, you know?
In the opening, I was under some pressure. Surya played this line which I hadn't checked in a long time, and I'm pretty sure I did not play correctly in the opening phase, and he found this nice idea of bishop takes on h6, which gave him an extra pawn. And my only compensation there is that I have two bishops, but it looked really very good for white, and I was in trouble. But at some point he also made an inaccuracy, which I was very surprised with. After that, he could have just put emergency breaks and made a draw. But as he was better for most of the game, he wanted to play on, which turned out to be a mistake, because suddenly I had a passed pawn and these two bishops, and it became very unpleasant for him. So overall, to sum it up, I would say that I was lucky to win this game, and most likely it would have been a draw or he would have won. So I'm lucky today.
We'd love to hear it. It's good to start off the tournament on this note, and we look forward to seeing you back here. And good luck in the rest of the tournament, man.
Thank you.
An excellent start there for Vidit, who mentions that he did happen to get a little bit lucky in that you get one of those classic situations where when your opponent is better for so long that they actually try pressing on in order to try to win the game.
All right, Jonathan, so that means the A group finished their round officially with 2 wins for black and 3 draws, right? So it's Vidit and it's Nijat Abasov who are the leaders after only 1 round. Yeah,
very respectable results. So I guess we'll head back over then to the B section.
Yeah.
Where we have a couple more games still going on.
It is going on and on.
Oh.
So
what happened?
So bishop h6. Yeah, well, at some point it looks like one of those chess studies when you look at it and you think, okay, someone just randomly thrown some pieces on the board, right? It can't be the real chess position. So knight to e8. And knight to e8, knight g5. Could this be
every move?
Could this be a blunt? I mean, oh, wait a second. So queen to d1. It's
So after the queen trade, black might have 2 loose pieces. But
queen trade, rook trade, and then wait. You can actually take this guy. Wait a second. Isn't it black like out of the woods and more than that? Because knight takes, black's actually perfectly fine. The knight is not lost because king f7, right? So perhaps what you do, I mean, it can't be that you have any other move after queen takes d1, right? So you have to take, and then black captures the bishop. Here, though, you do have an alternative. You can play h4. The knight really can't leave.
Every single move a counterattack.
Yeah,
Never
yeah.
take stuff, just attack something different.
Yeah, that's an impressive game, by the way. Yeah, but then it's like, well, it's not the end. Rook e7, I thought, to control, to guard b7, to control the 7th rank. But then once again, it's knight f5, and it keeps jumping around. And that's crazy. Rook h7, you know, Jonathan, I don't know if it's good. I don't care. It's knight h6, pawn takes. This is how it has to be.
There it is. You've called everything so far, basically.
Well, I don't think this will happen. But that's an exciting game, I have to say.
Yeah.
That's an exciting game. I'm just wondering if White really, well, it feels like he missed something. So this felt done.
Can you tell me what move they're on here? Because we can see that both players are under 5 minutes.
Queen d1 is move 36, so there is still like 4
okay.
moves to reach the position, right?
This is why you do tactics. This is an insanely critical position. A lot of wild stuff could happen here, and we'll see if they can work it out in the next 5 minutes.
Yeah, well, by the way, we are so much carried away, like trading the queens. I'm just thinking, can this be all of a sudden that Black can allow himself to do this? Because there is no check. There is no check. Well, you can play Queen e7 though, right? But then who knows? Maybe Black is in time to defend, because there is Queen d1 and Queen is not that far away any longer. King goes. I mean, if you need even like Bishop can join sometime. It's just that I have to make sure that I'm not getting checkmated immediately, which there is no guarantee about. Well, so you can imagine imagine how complex this thing is.
This is hard enough with an hour on your clock. Imagine 5 minutes.
Oh, wait a second.
Have we taken a look at this game at all? I don't think we. I mean, it was a draw, but I mean, maybe. Was there anything interesting?
Christopher Yu.
Brandon Jacobson game?
Yeah, let me click through like starting from move 10. And I'll call this one, it was a Jacobiano of some sort, and then on move 20, I mean, pardon me for doing this, but that's how I usually...
I have the opposite approach. I watch the first 10 minutes and then just kind of like, the first 10 moves and then I give up on the game. Jacobiano, I give up.
Yeah.
Doing the opposite.
That's fair, yeah, but what I'm doing, it's like 10 moves or 5 moves interval, and then to see, okay, so this is still kind of okay for both, and in 5 moves, well, White's probably slightly more pleasant though with the bishop, with like a4, knight c4 setup, so he can go c3, transfer the bishop, and then look for either a5 or b5 push. And yeah, of course, now that the game's over, we have, well, computer notes, and computer, of course, makes fool of me by saying Black is slightly better. Just to let you know, right? Yeah, and then something like this has happened, and they've just repeated. So basically, this structure was never changed. Yeah, so not much was going on there, at least. Not much was going on there, unlike in this Sadhwani against Mikaelyan, and h4 is on the board, right? Yeah. h4 is on the board. Wow, what a crazy game that one is. So yeah, probably you just go back, and then White eventually has to take, right? And probably has to take on b7. Wait a sec, do you? I just thought, by any chance, maybe you play c4 just to want to be.
Bishop in, huh?
Yeah, but he does have bishop b8, so maybe that's kind of way too optimistic. Probably I just take, right? And still a lot of like knight jumps.
The knights are going to add some very sufficient complexity to this game.
Yeah. And
very easy to,
you know, well, it's easy to forget, because after all the mess that happened, yeah, it's easy to forget to kind of try to count, try to do the head count, and materials equal. Interestingly enough,
right.
after all that happened between us, right? The materials equal, right?
We just made a few trades.
Yeah, but that's one crazy game, honestly. And they do reach the time period. Wait a sec. I think something has happened again. Well, he went rook e7. He possibly blundered knight e5, because this looks very dangerous.
This is your line.
This looks very dangerous. Well, yeah. And what do you do then? Because he's also he probably played this rook e7 last seconds for lack of a better move.
Yeah, he's down to about 20 seconds.
Yeah,
but maybe the idea is not rook to h7. I mean,
yeah.
You're welcome to show the line again, but there's going to be a pin after White sacrifices
so
on
something
h6.
active, perhaps, like you go to e2, a check, takes No, but that's what I'm afraid of. Like
Yeah.
you go for something active, and then you are the one getting checkmated, because knight e6, you can't go to g6. The rook is gone, and then white joins the action with the rook and both knights and the g pawn, and that's a nightmare. So he actually did play knight h7, and now this showing off beautiful knight h6, I believe, just wins on the spot.
Wow. And this is what was actually played? We got rook to h7?
Yeah, rook to h7 is the current position on the
All
board.
right, so we were expecting knight takes h6.
Yeah, well, which isn't bad at all, I believe. Right, so he has to capture, then the rook's attack, so rook g6, the only move. Captures, you can't really protect b7 even if you'd like to, because moving the pawn means knight c6, attacking the bishop, threatening the check. So you limit it to capturing f6, knight b7. And yeah, well, maybe c4 gives black a chance. Maybe that. Oh, wait a second. But now all of a sudden, may I go back to my
You keep wanting to play
c4
c4
idea, because yeah, well, b5, yeah, and c6 is protected. No, so it's not that easy. And if you want to exercise in tactics, we can continue, because knight c6, rook c6, there is
check and you win the
check
bishop.
followed by check. Yeah, I mean that's crazy.
You might be able to throw in a pawn takes b5.
No, I mean that's a crazy position. That's so rich with tactics. Knight takes h6 played. That's move 40 for white, so he can exhale. For black, I mean not much to, not much to do. He has to absolutely has to take. So that's already played. Hg5. That's the current position. Past 40 is move.
And this will give them a little bit of time to try to figure out what the heck is going on.
Wow, that was wild. That was wild, I have to say. All right, to Cristian. They've also passed the time control, so that's move 42 for Cristian and Tigran. And what we've seen last time was bishop e4, where Cristian simply traded, went queen f7. By the way, hitting this guy and this guy at the same time. b4, ab4, ab4. If black wants, he's absolutely.
Why would you not?
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't solve all of the issues on light squares, but at least you're getting rid of this h5 pawn, which is very important. So the only kind of viable alternative that he might be debating with himself is to go c4 and keep the b file closed, and maybe black's position is that good that you don't really need to win the h5 pawn. That's the only debate.
Is there any real way for white to defend it? Like, I know there's like g4 and some stuff,
g4 looks ugly, right?
Is there
G4
anything white would actually do, or maybe can you get away with this and then
like rook
maybe
h3 is not possible, knight e2 is a check. Yeah, so maybe c4 is overall is just a stronger move, because the h pawn is not running away. And with c4 and this pawn's being still on the board, black is of course
if you'd like.
much more comfortable. Yeah, like b5 is going to happen. Well, sometimes that knight b3 will be huge. Yeah, so Cristian actually comes very comfortable out of this time trouble, and yeah.
Have you ever played chess after like a long period of inactivity or anything? That's what
yes.
Cristian Chirila is doing
yes,
here.
Yes. I mean, you might be thinking I've bragged only about like. Slight part of my chess activities. Believe it or not, Fall Classics 2018 was officially my last chess tournament before this September.
Oh,
so
wow. That was a really long period of time.
I haven't played like almost
the whole pandemic that
4
went
years.
through in that period.
Right, yeah. We had the pandemic, and then after the pandemic,
And how was it like coming back? Was it tough? I mean,
it was, it was a Romanian league, I have to say. So greetings to Cristian, by the way. Okay, and well, it was meeting with my friends, so to speak, because I've played. Oh well, that was funny. There is a player, Liviu Nisipianu, which well, a lot of you guys perhaps heard of.
Very respectable
and
grandmaster.
Yeah, so that's 2022, the year we are living in currently. And the first game we played, it was 1998. So I mean,
yeah.
And I mean, when you live everyday life, you still think of yourself as being young, but then you say, okay, I've played somebody 24 years ago.
Yeah, you always get hit with these reminders.
All right. Yeah, so there've been quite a few games with like old friends, and most of them finished in friendly draws,
Did you play well? Did you feel like it was like significantly harder to play after a long period?
It is hard. It is hard because the game I lost one game, and it was very painful because I've lost a good position. Understanding that position is better. in postmortem, we kind of figured out that I've seen more than my opponent.
Yeah.
I just I outcalculated myself. I mean, that's the worst game to lose.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, but that happens after a long break. You feel rusty and
Do you feel like it was like tactics were mostly the rusty part, or what was the most difficult
indecisiveness.
part?
I mean, you see a
Yeah.
lot, in fact, because I haven't played, but I've always done something chess related.
Right.
So you're not kind of
You're not
really
fully out
bad,
of it, but
really bad, misprepared or something. The point is like you lose the rhythm, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I've always been like a quick player, so that there
Okay.
wasn't like time trouble wasn't the thing. And then all of a sudden, like I'm
You had to
thinking
spend more
for
time.
half an hour. And if you'd ask me, what you're thinking about, I don't know. Like
Yeah.
the line I'm calculating, B5, A, B5, A, B5.
Oh,
And you
yeah.
repeat it for half an hour, and stare at it.
Yeah.
That's terrible. By the way, C4 was played by
All right.
Cristian, so we are calling some moves of this place.
All right.
Okay.
Hey, I got a laugher. Let's play G4. Protect our pawn.
G4, yeah. Well, it might be. Interestingly enough, I mean, it might be as bad as it looks. Because White has to do something. Like if you let Queen H5, you're the same way lost positionally on the Queen side. Plus, you're down a pawn. So maybe let's just go. Maybe let's just play G4 and see what happens.
Black won't cry about this, but I protected my pawn.
Yeah, but then once again, if you look at this position, like kind of a bit seriously,
don't
it
re-maneuver that
all
knight at
goes
all.
about like how quickly Black's gonna win, because the bishop is still passive, right? So Black will have to put some effort in it. But I'm guessing, funny enough, I'm looking at this one, which almost
the square
makes
right away.
Black Queen trapped, but you can never really trap it, and since you cannot trap it, you're very uncomfortable. Like F3 is no longer a thing because I'll either take the rook, or if you move the rook, the G3 is going to be an issue, right? So since F3 cannot be played, then G4 is always hanging. The knight is the knight can't be moved. Rook can be moved because knight E2. Well, actually, it might be that it's almost at Zugzwang. Like, you have to play moves like Queen B2 and such.
Yeah, it could be very cramping.
Yeah, so that's not an easy task for Harutyunyan. Cristian does pretty well after such a break, so maybe back to active players, back to...
Yeah, it's good to see him. And he's actually, he's a coach here. He is working with all of the students at Mizzou University. So he's somebody that we see around quite frequently. He's constantly teaching people, and I'm sure he has a lot of students that are watching to see how their coach is going to be doing in this event. So it's really cool. I know he has a lot of support, a lot of fans, and also that all might be helping him out. He also has a podcast. He's got the C Squared podcast that he's been doing with Fabiano Caruana.
Right, yeah. So the podcast, which I'm secretly hoping to...
You trying
kind
to
of snuck in on one of the episodes.
You want to publicly... we can try to put in a good word for you with Cristian.
Right, since you've mentioned the students, I believe in A group we have Oparin, who is technically a student of Cristian.
Yeah, we have one of his students we can see. We haven't checked in on him in quite a while. Is this game over yet?
Yeah. A group is done. Yeah. A group is done, and he was the one
this is the Illia Nyzhnyk game.
to give perpetual to Illia Nyzhnyk with the sacrifice on G3, right? Rook takes G3, and yeah. So yeah, one more time for the guys who might just join us. A group has already finished round one, so 2 winners. It's Vidit Gujrathi, whom we had an interview just 10 minutes ago, and it's Abasov who won. Same with black pieces against Hakobyan, and that was perhaps kind of an opening catastrophe, right?
Yeah.
So White confused something, was lost by move 15. Right, so the B group is still going. 3 games survived the time control mark.
All right.
Yeah,
Well, we want to take a quick run around the horn here.
Yeah, so let's see. Well, actually, Lenderman, there's something that I've forgotten to mention entirely. So Bishop F8, Knight E8, and Alex, well, he's done a very interesting thing. So he went B4.
Okay, which kind of allows the black king in, but also that would allow the white king in.
Yeah. No, but usually you're advised, like, you have the bishop and you try to put the pawns on the opposite, kind of opposite colored squares, so that they interact with that. Like with the pawn on B3, let's say, bishop takes care of the dark squares, and then pawns control the light squares. But perhaps And it was move 40, so there might have been like a panicky move. I'm not sure. Anyway, e4 allows king f4, knight f6. Black will be using all the dirty tricks.
Don't take it.
Right?
Don't take it.
Yeah, bishop g7 is of course a check. It's of course a check, and right. Yeah, so bishop
so
g7
nice-
is
nice
not
little tactic,
possible
and there's-
yet. And isn't white kind of getting stuck a little bit? Because now if you move the king, then king e5, right?
Yeah, you
And
never,
you lose the
never want to go
Oh,
back.
no,
if
here
you
you don't even. Wait. I'm confused. King g3, king e5 is not possible because I was waiting for white to blunder this one, but it's not really. It doesn't let me play it. I wanted to say that you can go knight h5, but you're a bishop down in the final. That's kind of when the lines ends because bishop takes e5, knight takes g3. We trade the kings and go from there. But knight h5, regrettably.
There are a lot of simple ways to mess this up.
Yeah. So king g3 might be an idea, but where do I go on the other hand? Like to h4 or something? Yeah, that's quite silly. Anyway, so all three games are still going. White is absolutely winning in this one. Sadhwani against Mikaelyan, and what is this?
Okay,
So
the
the
queens have come off the board
time is
here.
not added to the clock, right? I mean that's the point. So half an hour is not added yet
Okay, they've crossed
because
move
they've
40
crossed it.
here.
It's move 46 or something.
Okay, so they did receive 30 minutes at move 40.
Yeah. Well, it does look
We
winning
missed a
for
couple
white.
moves here, right? Because the queens have now come off the board.
Yeah. So that's the
Okay,
one.
we saw here.
Yeah,
Okay, we
we've
were
seen
around this
this
position.
one. And he captured on
Okay.
b7, allowed c4, went rook d2, which is absolutely fine. Yeah, king f1, knight d6. He's going after this c4 pawn,
All right.
and perhaps it's not a lot black can do because rook h4, there is g3, rook to g4. I'm not kind of taking it immediately, but I go king g2, I go f3, or even f4.
Yeah, this
You
could
know,
be
just kind of to
promising for white if you
look.
get these pawns moving.
Yeah. I think he's just winning. He's just winning. Okay, it'll take some time because black, of course, will not resign immediately. Will try to set up some sort of traps and so on. But yeah, no questions asked. White should be able to convert this one. And then Christian's position is amazing as well. And we have Lenderman's
This is it. Yeah,
endgame.
white is
So
still
that's-
thinking here as to what move to make, huh?
Yeah, because
It's not
it's
easy.
not pleasant at all. It's not pleasant at all. It's really hard to yeah, really, like, what move do you actually come up with? I mean, white, at least, like, you have a feeling white should be able to put up some resistance, but how do you do it? Like, we're thinking, okay, this one's gone. At least we'll bring the knight to g3 and to f5, but in order to get it to f5, you actually have to trade the d4 knight, and when you trade the d4 knight, you should not be expecting black to take with the rook. He's gonna take with the pawn and
Pawns could end up getting
have
kind of out of
those
control.
two guys. That's terrible. All right. Well, I'm trying to keep.
So it actually might be possible that Sadhwani has actually won his game.
Yeah, we've gotten the result right here, right now, and yeah, knight d6 was the last move in the game.
Wait, what?
Knight d6 was the last move in the
This-
game.
this
So
is
black just resigned.
Huh, this feels a bit early.
Yeah, well, fair enough. He kind of trusts his opponent. That was one wild game, Jonathan.
Yeah.
So,
Well, maybe he can explain it because we actually have an interview with Sadhwani and he's going to maybe be able to break this down and tell us a little bit of his thoughts during the game.
All right, so thanks for coming on the show, Mr. Raunak. It's great to have you, and that's obviously an amazing way to start off the event. You know, you love a good, strong first win. Tell me how it happened, break it down. Tell me everything you want to tell me.
In the opening, I played this B3 idea, which is relatively new. There are very few games, and he didn't play in the best way. And I think I played really well until a point, and later, I think in the time trouble, I messed up somewhere very badly. I forgot about this move, knight g5. It was a great resource by him. Then I found queen d1, and then it's probably around equal again, but only white can play on. And then he blundered this trick, like he went rook e7, knight f5, and he blundered rook h7. I have knight h6, and this trick kind of sealed the game. So, okay, it was a topsy-turvy game, but I look forward to playing much better chess in the next games, and I love it here.
Well, obviously that's a great way to start it off, and thank you so much for coming on, and we wish you lots of luck in the next rounds coming up.
Thank you very much.
Of course.
Jacob Sanders for that interview, and congrats again to Sadhwani on this very important win. And if we can actually just stay and talk about this for just a second here, do you think this actually was too early to resign, or do you think this was actually an appropriate moment?
Well, now that I'm affected with computer evaluation, it actually says plus 5.3, so almost like an extra rook.
Sure,
but it really depends on how you feel about the game, and sometimes like, do you trust your opponent to convert it? Sometimes you are so mad at yourself that well, actually you're always mad at yourself, I mean, when you're losing, but it can lead to either you resigning prematurely, which was the case with, say, with Vasily Ivanchuk on many occasions, right? So he kind of punishes himself and he can resign, where us mere mortals, we don't even understand what's the evaluation of the position. The guy resigns all of a sudden, and you figure out apparently he's lost. Right, or sometimes people do the opposite, and then, okay, the game didn't go well for me, that's why I will make you play another 20 moves, right?
Yeah.
So here, once again, it was Mikaelyan's choice, and I think he might have been mad at himself for, like, as his opponent mentioned in the interview, like blundering this knight h6 thing, and then also like you look at it, you lose the c4 pawn, white has two connected passed pawns, and probably you just call it a day. I don't know. I would probably play like a couple of moves more, like try to defend it and see what's exactly the way I'll be beaten, but. Yeah, without much of a hope, anyway.
Very fair enough. And as we are kind of approaching sort of the end of our show for today, let's go ahead and take a look at these standings for the A group. We can see that we had two winners today. Vidit and Nijat were both able to get on the board. Everybody else was able to get a draw, which unfortunately means two people had to lose in order to get here.
I am.
So we look forward to seeing what will happen in the future days, but let's also take a look at the B group and see the results. We still have a couple games going on in the B group, but we want to give congratulations to Raunak Sadhwani and Denis Kadric, who were able to win their games today. And there's still a couple other people playing that are maybe hoping to also get on the leaderboard as well.
Oh yeah, so if you want any predictions, I believe Cristian should be winning and probably will win his game, but I have absolutely no idea what's going to happen in Lenderman's.
And we are about to sign off here, but if you do want to continue following the action, you can watch the rest of Cristian's games or any of the other game that is going on right now on Lichess. If you go to the broadcast tab, you'll be able to watch it. I want to give a huge shout out. Thank you to all of the chat. Thank you to everybody behind the scenes that helped to make this possible. We will be back tomorrow. We're going to be starting, there's a little bit of a delay. We are starting at 4 p.m. Central Time each day, and we're going to be here every single day. We got 8 more very interesting days, so I hope you guys do decide to come back. And I want to give a big thanks again to Miro for all of his help.
Thanks,
with the
Jonathan. Yeah,
today.
that was a lovely day in the office, and looking for more. Where is Hans? Hans has made the draw to a chat. I mean, you should have figured out by now. Anyway.
And if you want more Hans action, come back tomorrow. Don't miss it. Make sure that you're following us both on YouTube, on Twitch, everywhere that you can follow us on social media. And we will see you guys for another round tomorrow.
That's it.
This has been a presentation of the St. Louis Chess Club. Any reproduction or distribution of this content without the express written consent of the St. Louis Chess Club is prohibited.